Today, we're breaking down the Gophers tight ends. This could be the most concerning or at least the weakest room on the offensive side of ball, but can they find the missing piece in 2024 to answer the call? We'll dive in today.
You are Locked On Golden Gophers, your daily podcast on the Minnesota Golden Gophers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What up, Gopher fans? You're listening to Locked On Golden Gophers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. My name's Kane Rob, host of the podcast, former collegiate football video coordinator and recruiting assistant, here to talk Golden Gophers with you each and every day of the week, Monday through Friday. Today, we're moving forward with our Gophers position group breakdowns. Today, we're covering the tight end groups, and tomorrow we will cover the offensive line, and that will wrap up our offensive groups, and then we'll flip to the defensive side of ball on Friday and into the weekend. Now, today we're going to be breaking down the tight end room, and can they find the missing piece in that room to really step up and be the main contributor for the team, or will it be more piecemeal, more opportunities across the board? We're going to dive into those thoughts. We're going to break down the depth chart, and then we're going to rank all the Big Ten tight end rooms in the entire conference from 1 to 18. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Hit or subscribe over on YouTube so others can not only find the show, but so you can see your Gophers content daily. And be sure to leave a 5-star review on all podcasting platforms, wherever you listen, at Locked On Golden Gophers. Now let's dive into this tight ends room, because you know what? We were used to seeing Brevin Spanford in this room for year after year after year. And before that, even, we had more staples in the room. This year, it feels like we don't know who the guy is. Now, you're going to have guys who get the first shot, but I don't think they're locked in as the guaranteed starter for the entire season unless they earn it. And that's a big thing in this tight end room. But if you look at the makeup and how the snaps played out over the last few years, in 2023, Brevin Spanford had 716 snaps. Nick Callerup had 390 snaps. Jamison Gears had 121 snaps. Now, beyond them, Nathan Jones and Frank Bierman each saw 1 snap on the entire season. Then in 2022, it was more of the same. Brevin Spanford, 746 snaps. Nick Callerup, 308 snaps. Jamison Gears, 67 snaps. So it's been kind of a main 1-2 punch, one with the more normal tight end role, so to speak, both blocking and being a threat in the passing game, and then the other one being more of a blocking threat and an H-back at times. So that's kind of the two main roles of this Golden Gophers offense. Now, you go even further than that. In 2021, it was slightly different, but more of the same. Keeft in that more H-back blocking role with 591 snaps. Brevin Spanford in the 466 snap range, and then Nick Callerup with 20 snaps. Jamison Gears with 2 snaps. But like I said, you can see the trend. Minnesota has really run 2 tight ends in their system over the last few years, but one is a more traditional tight end role that serves as both a blocker, because blocking is very important for the tight end position in this Gophers offense, being run blocking heavy offense. But on top of that, they also have to be a pass catching weapon at times in that one traditional role. Then the other role is more strictly an additional blocker and an H-back role, more of a fullback at times, but it's not a player that is seen as a threat, but occasionally gets opportunities here and there, maybe 10 times on the season. Now, although those 2 roles will be the same, I don't think we will see only 2 guys on the field. I think the snaps could be split 2 or even possibly 3 ways in the more traditional role. I think there are lots of guys that can answer the call. Now, I'm not sure a bunch of the younger guys will be the ones to do it, but when we go over this depth chart breakdown, we'll really get into who could serve in what roles and what capacities. Now, the Gophers tight end room, it has a lot of question marks, because you don't know who could really be the top guy or be who arises to the top. When the cream rises, that's what you always want to talk about. Who could be the feature? Will it be the guys we anticipate, or could it be someone younger that you didn't foresee coming? That's definitely something we'll talk about in this depth chart breakdown. And then we're going to talk about why this room is in a great spot moving forward, as far as the depth and the talent and everything goes. If they continue to develop the tight end position, I think there's a lot of really, really quality talent over the last few draft classes, or I guess it's commitment classes, not draft classes. But there have been a number of really talented tight ends that have come to the Gophers and committed. And I think they're searching for who will answer the call to be that guy moving forward. So next, we're going to dive into the tight end depth chart. We're going to get into who the starters are to kick off the season, who could be the next man up, and who could be future guys to keep an eye on moving forward. We're going to dive into all of that coming up next. First, let's talk to you about our friends over at Gametime, because Gametime is my favorite ticketing app, hands down. And Gametime has a new feature called Gametime Picks that makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier. Gametime Picks filters out the fluff to show you the incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands and thousands of tickets. On top of that, they have a 50% off Labor Day offer for the Diamondbacks and Dodgers game. There are so many different offers like that you can find over on Gametime. They have all of your last minute tickets at the lowest price guaranteed. So you should definitely go on over, check out the Gametime app, and you can check out their super deals and what have you. But I think the best part about Gametime for me is that it's very easy to find the curated deals that work for you and the events that you want to attend, or the sporting events that pique your interest. Now, Gametime Picks is a number one feature for you to check out. Curation makes it easier to save more on sports, more on concerts, more on comedy and theater, and it can help them really adjust to what your interests are in your area. And on top of that, my favorite feature is definitely the all-in pricing, where you can toggle the feature on and it shows you the total up front with no surprise fees at checkout, so you don't have to worry about, oh, well, there's another additional $80 that came into play. No, if you toggle the all-in pricing feature, you know what you're paying up front without any surprise fees. Now, I also love that you can see the panoramic seat view before you buy any tickets, so you have an idea of what you're going to get. But Gametime is the lowest price guarantee, meaning Gametime is going to credit you 110% of the difference. If you find tickets that are cheaper of the same level or the same tickets, they will credit you 110% of the difference. Gametime is user friendly, they're friendly on the pocket, and I absolutely recommend them 100%. So download the Gametime app and create an account. Use promo code Locked On College for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code Locked On College. That's LOCKEDON College for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. And while we're at it, we want to talk about our other friends of the show as well. And that is none other than FanDuel, because FanDuel is where it's at. And right now, you have heard us talk about FanDuel time and time again. They are America's #1 sportsbook for a reason. And they have something a little different for you going on now through September 22nd. Football is going to be here in full swing, and that means the NFL will be here in full swing. And all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get 3 weeks of a free trial on the NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Then with a YouTube TV base plan, you're able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out of market game. All you need to do is have a Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel at any time. So like I said, if you bet $5, you get 3 weeks free, a free trial of the NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. So FanDuel's handed it out. FanDuel's hooking you up. Just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to download America's #1 sportsbook. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook and official sportsbook of Locked On. All right, Gophers fans, let's dive into the depth chart when it comes to the tight end room. So this room, like I said, it's a little different this year. You were used to seeing kind of Brevin Spanford as the face of the tight end room. There were ups and downs along the way, but I think it came more from confidence in the senior year than it did actually talent being worse, I guess. I don't know. There were a lot of people that were hating, talking about his brick hands and all these things. Let me just tell you, that dude was loyal to a fault for the Golden Gophers. So I do not think anybody should be ripping him. And honestly, everybody should be backing him, hoping that he has a successful career with the Dallas Cowboys to help Gophers former Gopher alumni really keep thriving in the NFL and helping others want to be a part of the Gophers because those NFL dreams can come true being in Minnesota. But let's talk about this year's group. Let's break down the depth chart now. We have Nick Callerup coming back. He is the best blocking tight end on the team. His PFF grades were down on the season last year, but in 2022, he did it at an elite clip. Now, Minnesota will hope for more of those 22 efforts as opposed to last year to close out his final year of eligibility. But Nick Callerup will definitely be holding down that blocking role for the tight ends. Maybe he gets a little bit more usage in the pass game as well, but overall, his blocking skills are definitely going to be valued by this Gophers team moving forward, and maybe it can get him some opportunities at the NFL level if he can put up elite numbers once again. We've seen that type of tight end get love in the NFL. O'Keefe got drafted in the 6th round by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He's still playing with them. He's getting time with them. Nick Callerup could fill a similar role. But on the more traditional side of things, you do have Jamison Gears heading into his junior season. Now, he hasn't had a ton of production in his time with the Gophers because he's been playing behind Brevin Spanford, because he hasn't had very many snaps on the field, but he has been discussed as the next man up behind Brevin Spanford, but we haven't really seen many opportunities for him. Thus far, he has had 4 receptions for 22 yards and a touchdown in his 3 years with Minnesota, but obviously Minnesota has seen more of him in the background in practices and what have you, and he is still a major question mark on how much production he can bring to this team in the passing game, but he will likely see the first team reps early this season in that more traditional role. Now, what he does with those reps will determine if he continues to see the heavy vast majority or if they try to spread it out and see who can be that next man up in this room for the future. Now, when you talk about next man up, you got to talk about my boy, someone who popped off the page for me starting in the spring, and really I have just been a major fan of since the spring sessions, and that is Pierce Walsh. He is a redshirt freshman this upcoming season. This has been one of my favorite up-and-coming guys since the spring sessions, and I think he is bound to work his way into the rotation in some capacity. Now, he might not be the number one guy. He might not be the starter, but he's going to find his way onto the field in some games this season. You could bet that. You can take it straight to the bank. I'm telling you right now, it is going to happen. And I would not be shocked if he was the tight end one handling most of the traditional role in his redshirt sophomore year in 2025. So he is a solid pass catcher. He has nice hands, soft hands, usually comes down with the ball. He has natural instinct. He has bulked up a bit since he came to campus. And he looks fluid, honestly. I think he looks like the biggest difference maker in this tight end room in a passing capacity. And that's why I think he's going to find his way on the field. I'm very impressed with what I saw from last fall. I thought he looked a little scrawny. He had moments where he had a touchdown and roll for periods. And I was like, that's interesting. I didn't think too much about Pierce Walsh coming to this team. I thought of him as a lower commit, and I wasn't sure if he would ever find his way into the rotation. Just a year later, not even a year later, because in the spring he was making noise, and in the fall he is continuing to do so. I was wrong absolutely on those assumptions, and I'm glad to see him balling out. And honestly, he has looked solid with both Max Brosmer and Drake Lindsay. He has played with the ones and the twos throughout fall, and even a little bit in the spring. So Pierce Walsh is a name to circle, underline, star, whatever you need to do. Just remember the name, because I think he will be getting time this season and for sure next season. Now, another name in that more traditional role that you can maybe keep an eye on is Nathan Jones. He has been working with the twos mainly. Occasionally, he get ones reps. I know Jamison Gears had some injury things in the spring, so Nathan Jones was one of the players with Pierce Walsh who got a lot of extra reps that maybe they wouldn't have seen if Jamison Gears was healthy in the spring. So overall, I think that Nathan Jones is someone that could work his way into opportunity if the guys in front of him aren't getting the job done. If they aren't being difference makers, if they aren't holding their blocks, if they aren't catching the ball, then Nathan Jones, Pierce Walsh are the first guys who will maybe get the call to try and answer the bell. And I think that whoever runs away with the opportunities, whoever does the most with those opportunities is going to see more. So maybe we don't see 700 snaps to a traditional tight end like we've seen from Brevin Spanford forward over the last 2 years, but maybe we see 300 to one guy and then 200 and 200 to the next two guys. Maybe it's a room of three in that traditional role, and then maybe you have Nick Callerup, who's still seeing 300 to 400 on his own in that more blocking capacity. But I think Pierce Walsh and Nathan Jones are the guys to know behind Jamison Gears and who could maybe try and push for more opportunities behind him. Now, the last tight end that I think maybe could get on the field in some capacity on the offense this upcoming season is Frank Bierman. He's kind of more second in line in that Nick Callerup role, more so an inline blocking role, an H-back type role. I think Frank Bierman has contributed. I mean, he saw one snap last year, but he's a guy Coach Fleck has mentioned in some of these press conferences that he's been impressed with his effort and his leadership and what have you with this team. And so I think Frank Bierman's going to earn some more role this upcoming season. Maybe not a ton, but maybe he can get 50 snaps. Maybe he can get up to 100 snaps and help Nick Callerup get breathers here and there. I think that's a name to know. He is a senior. I think this is his last year of eligibility, but Coach Fleck will definitely show some love here, show some respect to all the hard work he has put in behind the scenes and as a leader on the field. And I think Frank Bierman is a name to at least know because he could be on your Golden Gophers field for game days moving forward. Now, beyond those names, we got to talk about the names of the future. These are some of the most intriguing names long-term to see how it all plays out. Now, of course, Pierce Walsh, he's in that conversation as well. He's a redshirt freshman this upcoming year, so he is one of those young guys. But these next three names I'm naming are also freshmen, two of them true freshmen, one of them a redshirt. Now, you've got Julian Johnson, Jacob Simpson, and Sam Peters. Now, Julian Johnson and Jacob Simpson are both true freshmen. I believe both of them early enrolled. I know Julian Johnson did for sure, but I think Jacob Simpson might have. I can't fully speak on that. Jacob Simpson is from Iowa. He committed to the Gophers and really had a found respect for this program, but he connected really well with Brevin Spanford on his visits as well. Loved what they were doing in the program, sees himself in a similar role as Brevin Spanford. I think he is wearing the same number, 88, as Brevin Spanford. So overall, he is a guy that could be a future stud for this tight end room. Again, being a true freshman, especially, but even so a redshirt freshman, a lot of the goal is to continue to put on weight, continue to get stronger, continue to learn the offense, not only in a pass catching capacity, but also being able to hold your own as a blocker. If you can't block in a consistent fashion and help contribute in the run game, you will not find time for the Golden Gophers on the field. So a lot of these guys still have a lot of learning to do, a lot of growing to do, a lot of getting stronger to do, but I think that they all have a ton of upside and could be guys of the future. Again, that's Julian Johnson, Jacob Simpson, and Sam Peters of Maple Grove. Those three plus Pierce Walsh could be the main figureheads, the main faces of this tight end room moving forward. And then the last tight end to bring up is walk-on Jack DeSano. He's another guy who could find his way on the field in the future in that lead blocker a la O'Keefe, Nick Callerup type role. And he could be more of an H-back as well, but we have seen him occasionally with the twos working in with the number 84 on his jersey. So shout out Jack DeSano. But the last thing we're going to do on today's show is talk about the Big Ten rankings from 1 to 18 when it comes to tight end rooms. Where do the Gophers fall? This is probably my lowest ranking of the Gophers across every position, but how low will it be? We're going to talk about that coming up next. First, let's talk to you about our friends over at Ibata, because sandals, sunscreen, snacks for the kids, what do all these things have in common? You're probably going to buy them a ton over the summer. And even as the summer is coming to a close, even as we are getting ready to put away all of those items, if you're running out, you got to get those last couple beach days in. You got to get ready for Labor Day and Memorial Day and all the other holidays that will come. You want to stock up before you run out when the next spring and summer comes along. And you should use the Ibata app when you're getting your hands on all of these goods, because you get cash back on all of your purchases when you stock up on your summer essentials. So you're definitely going to want to use the Ibata app, which is free, and it lets you earn cash back every time you shop. Earn on hundreds of items, from groceries to beauty supplies and even toys, and you can make sure you are beating inflation no matter what you are purchasing. The average Ibata user actually earns about $256 per year. That could cover an entire shopping trip or that flight you've been eyeing to take, that special trip or a fancy dinner that you've been craving. You can save it all over at Ibata and get your savings going. So what you do with this app is you can save on over 2,400 brands and shop at over 1,000 retailers, including your favorite grocery stores, Lowe's, Macy's, Sephora, Best Buy, and more. So it's time you join over 50 million users who use Ibata and earn cash back every time. So how it works is right now, Ibata is offering listeners $5 for just trying their Ibata app by using promo code Locked On College when you register. Just go to the App Store and go to the Google Play Store and download the free Ibata app to start earning cash back and use promo code Locked On College for $5 straight to your account. That's IBOTTA in the Google Play or App Store and use promo code Locked On College. All right, Gophers fans, we are ranking these tight end rooms in the Big Ten from 1 to 18, and I'm going to kick it off with rival the Iowa Hawkeyes. They're number one for me. I truly believe Luke Lachey is the most talented tight end, and without the injury last year, I think he likely leads the conference in production. He could have been headed to the NFL. He only played in 1.5 games last year, and he had 131 yards in those 1.5 games. He was on a crazy pace right away. He has all the talent in the world, and the year prior, he played second fiddle to Sam Laporta, who has been a stud in the NFL in his rookie season, but even playing second fiddle, he had 362 yards and 3 touchdowns. So this room is clearly his year this year, and I believe he will continue the tradition of Iowa tight ends being tight end U. Now, they also have youngster Gavin Hoffman behind him, and he could be the next face of that Iowa Hawkeye room, so they've got a lot of talent, and I got to put him at number one. Now, a lot of people might be surprised that the school that isn't one, and they're not two either. My number 2 school is Penn State. This room is deep, in my opinion. Tyler Warren leads the room with a lot of production back from last year. He even outproduced eventual draft pick Theo Johnson. Tyler Warren had 422 receiving yards last year with 7 touchdowns. Then you also have Khalil Dinkins, who had a couple catches last year for some production. He brings some experience. And then you've got some talented freshmen, Angela Rappolia and Luke Reynolds, who are both guys who will be thriving for this year or this team for years to come in the tight end room. So I think Penn State has a deeper tight end room across the board, and they come in at number 2. Now, the group that maybe people would put at 1 or at least 2, I've got them at 3, and that's the Michigan Wolverines. Now, the Wolverines could have the best tight end in the country in Colston Loveland, but beyond him, Michigan doesn't feel as deep at that tight end position as the 2 rooms I have listed above them. Now, Loveland was a monster last year with 649 yards and 4 touchdowns, but we will see if less efficient quarterback play leads to less production for Colston Loveland. I've got them at the number 3 group in the conference. Moving on to number 4, the high-powered offense of Oregon, and Oregon has their number 1 tight end back in Terrence Ferguson. Now, I could see a case for Oregon to be in the top 3 because they have that productive target in Terrence Ferguson back. He has been super tight with Dylan Gabriel since he transferred in, and last year he had 414 yards and 6 touchdowns. So if you build on those numbers with a stronger connection with the quarterback, you could be an absolute stud. But not only was it Terrence Ferguson who had production last year, but Patrick Herbert, brother of Justin Herbert, is a sturdy number 2 who had 196 yards and 3 touchdowns. And then they have a lot of freshman talent below them. So I like that Oregon room a lot. You go to number 5, and I love the Nebraska tight end room. They have a great combination of experience and upside in their true freshmen. So overall, the experience side, you have Thomas Fidone. He is a guy who has been doing it over the last 2 years. He had some injury concerns in his first couple of years, but he has found a way to claw back and be productive for this team, both as a receiving target and a blocker. And then, like I said, you have the upside of a true freshman coming in Carter Nelson, who has impressed. He could find his way onto the field as a true freshman tight end, which says a lot. And that leads to a top 10 tight end room, or top 5 tight end room, in my opinion, in the conference. And tight ends can be a quarterback's best friend. So new quarterback Dylan Raiola, a true freshman who could need a trusty dependent target, could find a lot in his 2 tight ends. Now you move on to number 6. I've got Michigan State with Jack Velling leading the group. He is a top 6 unit for me, and they are significantly better than the other 12 programs below them. That top 6 is a real deal. And Michigan State rounds out the top 6 with Jack Velling. He was a stud at Oregon State last year, and he's sticking with his head coach, and I believe it will continue to be productive for him at Michigan State. Now, Velling had 438 yards and 29 receptions last year with 8 touchdowns, so he could continue to be a beast and maybe the number one target for the Michigan State Spartans moving forward this year. Now, at number 7, I've got the Indiana Hoosiers. Zach Horton comes from JMU, follows his head coach to Indiana. He saw 275 yards and 6 touchdowns last year, and he is a decent blocker as well. He leads that room. The number 8, I've got Illinois. We just saw Tip Ryman succeed here, although more subtly. He still found his way into the NFL draft, and now Illinois brings a similar build tight end who was an FCS All-American in Cole Rusk. He should be a major player for Illinois in this upcoming season, so I've got to have them in the top 10. Now, at number 9, I've got Ohio State. For Ohio State, you have a tight end who converted from wide receiver in G. Scott Jr., so he's got some speed to him, he's got some versatility to him, but you also have a highly rated redshirt freshman in Jelani Thurman who could be a stud in there for years to come. So they've got some talent, but I think the wide receivers outweigh the tight ends when it comes to targets, so I had him a little lower. Then you go to number 10, I've got Purdue. With Max Clare leading the way, he could be the next stud tight end for the Boilermakers. Although he had some injuries in 2023, he also saw decent production with 22 receptions for 196 yards. And if he can improve on those numbers, he will absolutely be a top 10 unit for the tight end rooms with Purdue. You go to 11, I've got UCLA. Now, Moliki Motavao, he leads the way with 283 yards and 2 touchdowns coming back to the UCLA program. They also have an offensive coordinator who has experience working with Travis Kelce on multiple seasons, so this could be a room that sees big gains on the offensive side of ball. You go to number 12, I've got the other California school in USC. Lake McCree is the returner for USC. He's the guy to kind of keep an eye on. But again, similar to what I had just said with Ohio State, the receivers take more of that production. So I don't know how productive Lake McCree will be. But that being said, he had 26 receptions for 262 yards and a touchdown last season. 13, I've got Washington. They had a ton of TE production from last year, but they also lost their top 3 tight ends. I believe names to know would be Quentin Moore and Ryan Otten, though neither come with much production. You move to 14, it's Maryland. They lost Dyches, but I think once again, the quarterback room can hurt the production for the tight ends in this Maryland room. Now, Maryland has Preston Howard back, but his production was more minimal with 160 yards and a touchdown, though he does have the opportunity for a bigger role with Dyches moving on, so maybe he can improve on those numbers. Then you go to 15, I've got Northwestern. Thomas Gordon is back. He has had a small role in the offense when it comes to pass catching for the past 2 years, and I think he's going to look to make it 3 years straight of having somewhat of a role, even though it may be smaller. Then you move to 16, and 16 is where I have the Golden Gophers. Now, this could be really low, but we don't know what this tight end room holds. I like the future upside of Pierce Walsh long-term, but in the 2024 season, I don't trust this room enough as a pass-catching weapons as I have in years past. So Jameson Gears, Nick Callerup, they're going to have to prove me wrong in this department before I can move them any higher. Then at 17, I've got Wisconsin, another school that tight end seems to be more bound for blocking than it does as a passing weapon. That fact is what makes me have both Minnesota and Wisconsin so low in these tight end rankings, though Ashcraft for Wisconsin did have 86 yards and a touchdown last year in 4 games. Then the final one for me, the 18th, the lowest tight end ranked school in the Big Ten for me is Rutgers. Their starting tight end is a defensive lineman turned tight end this offseason who hasn't had any production, and that is quite the change. We'll see how it turns out for them, but I can't imagine that's going to be highly productive or promising, so I had to have them as the lowest in the conference. Let me know your thoughts below in the comments. Let me know if you have any questions moving forward. Tomorrow, we're breaking down the big boys with the big sexies in the offensive line, so I hope you'll tap in there. I'm excited to see where the Gophers fall for me in there, and I hope you are as well. I'll see you then. Row the boat, Sky Umago Gophers, as always, and please don't forget to hit subscribe.